All right. Good morning, Sonder fam. Happy Saturday morning. I see we're deciding on our scale of potatoes how we are today. I do think she needs to come up with maybe a few more positive potatoes, but most of them seem to be a little stressed out potatoes. Here we've got the cantankerous tater tot. I do love a good tater tot. I saw a lot of people who were the suspiciously calm steak fries. Probably a lot of times in the morning, I'm the over caffeinated curly fry. Saw a few burnout baked potatoes, some overwhelmed waffle fries, which of course now I'm hungry. Uh, now I'm gonna have to go have potatoes after the social. So yeah, the happy hash brown. Yes, exactly, Bailey. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Maya. I'm going to be walking you through our weekly setup. And with me today in the chat is Bailey, one of our other fabulous facilitators, and she'll be keeping an eye if anybody has any questions. She'll be dropping some links in there for some various things that we talk about. So if you need anything, let her know. I try to keep an eye on the chat, but sometimes it distracts me and I lose my train of thought. So sometimes, and it gets going kind of fast sometimes. So sometimes I don't quite catch things. So just know that it is there for you. And I also like to point out that sometimes people come to these socials and they like to hang out in the chat. They're chatting with their friends, getting ideas, talking about what they're doing, not really working so much in the journal, and then they work on their journal after we're done. Some people, totally opposite. Nose in the journal, focused on setting up. They kind of ignore the chat. Absolutely fine. Some people do a little combo of both. Some people like to come to all three of our weekly setups, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Do what you need to do. I always tell people, like, this is your hour, this is your time that you've set aside to work on your journal. There's no right or wrong way. We are not going to show up at your door and knock on your door and tell you you're doing things wrong, right? This is just for you, time you've set aside. So don't let the journal ever be a source of stress or worry that you're not doing things the right way, right? So also just a couple little quick housekeeping tips. Make sure that you set that chat to everyone. It has an obnoxious tendency to default back to host and panelist. And when it does that, the only people that see what you write are myself and Bailey. So just make sure that you're doing that. And sometimes you'll set it to everyone, type something in the chat, and then it automatically like will flip back, especially if I think if you're on a phone or an iPad. So just keep an eye on that little blue box and where it's, what it's saying when it says in the chat to everyone. And also, did want to point out that we do have Mayha's Women's Month 2026 celebration coming up on March 11th. That's the little one of the socials. Mayha will be there. Jennifer O will be there. Bailey's dropping the link to register for that. There is a small charge for that since it's separate from kind of the journaling things that are there. If you can't make it at that time, but you pay for it, you do get the link. Everyone gets a link that has paid for it to be able to go and watch the recording later. Just know that when you do that, the chat's not there. So we kind of like to encourage the live in person kind of piece. Oh, there's Nicole. I see Nicole. Yes. Hey, Nicole. Good morning. Love to see our folks. Is anybody new? Is this your first time at a Sonder Social coming online? You can just put a little "I'm new" in the chat. It's my first time. I always like to point out it's always a good idea to take screenshots of some of the slides just in case you want to remember some of these examples. We do record it, so it will be on our YouTube channel. But again, there's no chat there, so just kind of keep that in mind. And then also, we like to make sure that this is a safe and supportive space for all of our Sonder fam. So you want to make sure that you're kind and courteous to both yourself and others. No promotions or spam. We respect everyone's privacy here. No hate speech or bullying, limiting those repetitive product and accessory questions. It's fine to ask some questions about, like where people get pens or stickers, but the best place for that really is in Sonder Club. So you can post links and those kinds of things. And then any of those customer care inquiries, like you need to change a billing address, you need to update your credit card, you want to change from a monthly subscription to a yearly subscription to save some money. All those go to hello@silkandsonder.com. Bailey and I don't have access to your account, so we can't can't fix anything there. We can't even look you up and see kind of what's going on. And then ultimately, just remember that these socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. But ultimately, you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions, right? So if there's ever anything that we're working on that just isn't your jam, work on another page, work on another section. Some people like to come and they just do some coloring while they're here, right? Coloring, listen to music, hang out in the chat. If the songs I'm playing aren't your jam, right, you can mute those. If my voice isn't your jam, you can mute me. We have closed captioning enabled. And I know Nicole always says that I'm always her jam, and I do so appreciate that, right? So without any further ado, let's talk about this month's theme, which is quite timely considering we have the time change tomorrow. I forgot I should have put a meme in here to remind everyone, but we spring forward, which is not my favorite thing to do, but I do like more sunlight in the evening. So that will be exciting. So just remember that we got to spring forward, lose an hour this weekend. Yeah. So don't forget. But other things about thinking about change, thinking about how we change, thinking about how sometimes changes happen to us. Sometimes we initiate the change. And I liked the quote that said, you have the power to change your life. Just start with changing your thoughts. And I think that is a really good reminder, especially considering we had beliefs last month as our theme. So that's a nice way to kind of think about, we've been kind of thinking about changing our thoughts, and now we're thinking about making some changes in our lives. And the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So instead of fighting the change, really thinking about what you can do that might make things a little bit new for you, and what changes. Sometimes small changes can have a really big impact, right? Yeah, Emma's saying I have a standing 6:30 a.m. meeting on Monday. I don't want the time change. It's so rough, and it's always so rough for kids in school. I work in a school district, and I feel like kids are always still half asleep. Yeah, and some people, if you're in Arizona, they don't observe the time change, which is confusing. And I think there might be a few other places that don't observe the time change, but so confusing to mess with time. And then the other little flower that I have there says, any change, even a change for the better, is always accompanied by discomforts. And I think that is also important to know. Even if we're making a change that we want to change, a thing that we want to have happen, there's always a little bit of discomfort. So good to just remember that. So this morning we are going to do our change mind map. So in these weekly setups, we spend a little time digging into the theme, give you a little prompt. It's not anywhere in your journal. It's just something that you're going to find a blank space to write in. We're going to do our rosebud thorn activity that's at the end of the week, which I think is on page 36 for this week. And then we'll do those weekly setup pages, which are going to be on, we have to skip ahead a little bit, on page 40 and 41. So just know that's what we're doing. And I always have these two little cartoons to illustrate a couple points that I think are really important for us to remember. First one says, there's room for you here just as you are. Sharing our successes, sharing our challenges, sharing our frustrations, sharing our happy things. We're here for all of it, right? Because life is not just all good things, right? Life can be bumps in the road, and sometimes we have really big bumps, and sometimes there are hills, and sometimes there are mountains, and sharing those is always, I think, helpful. Also, the way you feel matters, and no emotion you feel is bad or unworthy. So sad, happy, feeling angry about something. Yesterday, I had some frustrations that I was feeling, and I just had to articulate some things that I was just really irritated and frustrated with. I kind of wrote them down, and then actually I felt a lot better because I was allowing myself to feel the feeling and then kind of be able to move forward. Yeah, Nicole's saying, I love that I can share a depressed post and a happy post in one day and no one judges, right? And I think that's important too, right? Life is not just all bad or all good. We kind of swing in between, and we can hold two truths in our heads at the same time. Yeah, life is messy, Dawn, right? It's just and we're all going through it. So I appreciate that folks come here, they're their authentic selves, and we can just kind of be real with each other when we're here in this space. So we're going to find a blank page. This is going to be week 2, so maybe you've already started this. Maybe some people like to use their weekly scratch pad to write on this. Some people like to use the definitions page on page 3. Maybe it's the quote page on page 38, their back page on page 60. Maybe you just write it on a sticky note, kind of wherever. Divided it into the 4 quadrants. Maybe you've used like a stencil or something to kind of make some fun little boxes for you to do your writing in. You could trace your driver's license, a cookie cutter, a can lid to kind of frame those sections, whatever you want. So we're kind of peeling back these different layers of our theme of change to see what's underneath. So this week is week 2. And if you haven't done week 1, that's absolutely okay. You do not have to catch up. You do not have to go back. You can if you would like, but you don't have to. So week 2 is we're going to think about some positive changes, right? And remember that little meme that I had, the little picture that said, even positive changes cause some discomfort, right? So we're going to recall a positive change in our lives, what led to it, and how did it impact you? What challenges did you face, and what successes can you celebrate from that positive change? And it could be something recent, it could be something from a long time ago. So again, here's just some examples of how people have set up their mind map. The one up in the top right kind of has these translucent sticky notes, and that's Jennifer O's, and she writes the question, the prompt on the top of this translucent sticky note, and then she writes the response underneath. We have somebody who did some fun little triangles for their change mind map. This month, I decided to use my expense tracker on page 25 because I don't really use that to track expenses. So I changed it up, and we do have a bonus weekend. So I did a bonus space. Oh, Michelle, thanks. Triangles are yours. Thanks for sharing that. So I thought even if we don't have a bonus weekend to use, I could always use that for kind of a wrap up or final thoughts about my mind map. So I thought that was a nice linear space. Yes, triangle is that symbol of change. So I love that idea. Again, any of these spaces that you want to do, and there's the prompt again for you, recalling a positive change. So for me, I was thinking about, I got a new car, well, new to me, not last fall, but the fall before, so 2024. And my previous car, if you've heard the story, so my car was a 2005 Pontiac Vibe. I'd had over 200,000 miles on it. Love, love, love that car. I got in a little fender bender. Somebody kind of crunched in the rear end. It was starting to have some other issues, and I thought, well, maybe I need to get a new car. And but I really, really liked my Vibe. It is like so great gas mileage. It's like so low maintenance. Loved it. So I actually did some looking on Carfax. You can kind of set up what kind of car you're looking for, and I found, you're gonna laugh, another 2005 Pontiac Vibe, but it only had 50,000 miles on it because apparently it had been like, like the little old lady maybe driving it back and forth to the grocery store once a week or something. So I went and I found it. Lovely, very inexpensive. And but here's the fun thing too, though. It is a stick shift, which my other car was not, which I know how to drive a stick, but I hadn't driven a stick for a long time. So that was a change that I kind of had to get used to. So there was a little bit of discomfort there, but I am so totally loving it. It was definitely a positive change. Certainly something that I wasn't necessarily thinking about. And thinking about the successes or thinking kind of more about that change is I kind of think we need more stick shift cars because it really makes me focus on the road. I can't really be tempted to look on my phone or do those kinds of things because you've got to pay attention because you've got to be shifting in traffic. So kind of an interesting thing to kind of think about. So I will let you work on that. I will play just a little bit of music here, and we will check back in and see how things are going. Okay, so thank you for sharing there in the chat different changes, positive changes that you've gone through and kind of what that means for you, how it impacted you, kind of those challenges that you faced and successes you can celebrate. And I think it is important, again, to remember that change always involves some discomfort, even if it's great change, right? Even if it's rearranging the living room, sometimes can cause some discomfort because you forget the furniture is set up that way and you might trip if you're walking in the night. Or I always think of, when you decide to clean out your kitchen or you kind of like move things around and then you keep going back to that same cabinet for whatever it is. And you're like, oh, shoot, I moved it. So all of those changes just take our brain a little bit to process good changes and the changes that maybe are not quite so positive. So thank you all for reflecting on that for just a few moments. So let's move on to our rosebud thorn. Always want to spend a little bit of time thinking about the previous week, what kinds of things happened for us. So I like to start with the thorn just because I to start with the not so fun thing first. So kind of get that out of the way so I can end on a more positive note. So the thorn is just that challenge, that frustration. Maybe it's that thing that's kind of out of your control, out of your sphere of influence, but you're having to deal with it, right? It's just that frustrating, irritating thing. And so I am president of our HOA, and we have a board member and some other folks who are just being a pill, right? It's so frustrating, and it's just taking up way more of my mental space than I would like. And so I'm hoping that clears up soon. Our bud is something that we're looking forward to, that emerging opportunity, something that we're excited about, something that we're, looking forward to, something that's fun. Maybe it's a change that's coming up. And so for me, I have really fallen off the fitness wagon over the last several years. It's just like I've become more and more sedentary and kind of like not doing things. So I decided I had to do something. So I went to the gym. I have a membership and I hardly ever go, but I had a workout with a trainer, signed up with a trainer, started working out with her. Saw her yesterday. Got some great plans for moving forward. So definitely feeling excited about that. That definitely is a bud. My body wants to move. I mean, our bodies do want to move. They want to do things. And we sometimes, with the sedentary job, just kind of the sitting and that kind of thing. So excited about that. A little bud coming up there. And then our rose is a highlight, something that made us smile, something that made us happy, something that was fun, something that was exciting, and it could be small things. It doesn't always have to be a big thing. But we finally, after 40 days of no snow here in Denver, we finally got snow, and it was a big, gloppy, wet mess of snow, but it was lovely, and we needed the moisture so bad. And it's definitely not enough to get us out of drought land for the summer, but it definitely was a good start. And it wasn't super cold, and it wasn't so bad driving. The roads were just kind of big, bloppy, gloppy, uh, snow, and it's still kind of out there, but I think we're going to be like in the 50s today. So it probably mostly will melt off, which is fine. So please feel free to share your rose, your bud, your thorn, all there in the chat. And then we'll check back in here and keep moving on. All right. So thank you all for sharing in the chat. I think it's great. Some of you are kind of talking about how sometimes one thing can be the rose, the bud, and the thorn, right? And sometimes talking about a thing that was a thorn actually turned out to be a rose in the end. Sometimes things happen for a reason, even though it may seem ridiculous at the time, and things are, all that change is something that is good to have. So, again, thank you all for just spending just a few moments. It's so, so important for us to take this pause and think about the week, think about the different things that happened. Sometimes, if I can't think of something right off the bat, I'll kind of scroll through my pictures on my phone or something like that. So I see we've got folks with like new jobs or a move coming up, people who are practicing instruments. Spring, of course, is coming. So a lot of folks are excited about that coming. So lots of things, of course, other thorns could be like taxes and paperwork and those kinds of things, but it's always just good that you took just a few moments to think about that. And this page is always really good when we do our monthly wrap up to be able to look back each week at those roses, buds, and thorns and kind of see the whole bouquet of the month, right? So let's dig into our weekly planner. And I found a couple of these little quotes to kind of remind us of a few things. Change is not the problem, but resistance to change is. Again, remember, the more we fight it, the more we push against it, the harder it can be and make things not go as smoothly as we would like. And the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. And I thought both of those are, again, just really good reminders of we may not like the change. It may not make sense at the time. It may be some frustration, but we're going to embrace it. We're going to make the best of it. And sometimes we can't control that, but we can control our reaction to it. And so that's hard sometimes, though, isn't it? Right? Kind of controlling our own actions. So that's what we're working on this month, dealing with that whole idea of change. So over on page 40, we're on week 11 for the year, right? We are going to talk a little bit about how we want to feel, how we want to feel for the week, how we want to show up for ourselves, how we want to show up for others around us, show up for the world. So lots of, it could be one word that you want, how you want to feel. It could be maybe you want something you want more of or less of. Several words, a phrase, a mantra, an affirmation, stickers, quotes, maybe last week's word you want to bring over. It doesn't have to change every week. If you have a word of the year that you're really focusing on, that can come over every single week. We can definitely use those. Here's some other examples of things that folks have written: 1% better, enthusiastic, enough, happy, healthy, loved, refreshed. Make a little acrostic there with some of the different words. Lots of great ideas for how you want to think about that. So I see folks are kind of dropping in the chat what their word is. I want to also talk about how that can potentially tie into those weekly major 3 goals, right? And so really thinking about if you can achieve these 3 goals, then maybe that will help you achieve the feeling that you want to feel. So you could always use your March intentions page, weekly, the monthly habit trackers to set up these goals. Maybe if you had goals from last week and you want to bring them forward, you can totally do that. Doesn't have to be 3 brand new things. Maybe you want to focus on just one goal, so you could do that. Maybe you want to set your goals through that lens of change, right? How you're going to deal with that or address that. Maybe you have some no goals that are going to affect your life in a positive way. So you're going to say things like no doom scrolling, no more than a certain number of minutes on social media, no impulse spending, no takeout meals. Maybe you want to look at those previous weeks or journals to see if there's any outstanding goals or something you didn't quite accomplish you want to kind of bring back. Maybe you want to frame it around a personal challenge, like a fitness challenge or a cleaning and decluttering. Spring cleaning is coming. Maybe it's some self-care, a new recipe challenge. And then, of course, the little graphic here, maybe March is more slow living. Maybe you want to put up a bird feeder, compiling a spring reading list. Oh, speaking of that, I will talk about that more toward the end, and I'll drop the link in there. But I did, since this week I did not get on Instagram and Facebook, I had time to set up our unofficial Silk and Sonder book club in the Fable app, and I will share that link with you. And I know we've had like 28 folks have already joined. We're still voting on our book that we want to do for our first book. So Maybe that's something that you want to do. I think that will be fun. Maybe you want to refresh your home decor. Maybe you want to do a little baking some bread. Spring is coming on the 20th, right? Here's some examples of how people have kind of set this up, things like delete and delegate and delight. One person had these stickers are beautiful, but the lady with the bees and the flowers, super, super pretty. A great way to kind of do that in the weekly three goals. Maybe it's just three words like breathe, move, and notice. Maybe it's some quotes, a quote about perspective, a quote about hope. Maybe you can find a cool quote about change. Um, Mind, body, soul. Maybe it's three ways you're going to get excited about spring, three songs of the week, three topics you want to know more about, three new recipes you want to try. So think about the feeling and the goals. I'll play a little bit of music and scroll back through these so you can take a look at these, and then we'll check in and keep moving on. All right. So thanks for those words that you're thinking, those feelings that you want to feel. And I really do think if you can really focus on that feeling and then set up those goals and your to-dos and your habits and activities, just kind of setting up your behavior to help you feel that feeling is going to make all the difference. So folks are wanting to feel refreshed. I think that is definitely something around springtime. We do have um, spring break. We were planning on, my husband and I were going to be in Morocco for spring break, but his appendix surgery was not quite on the plan. So we decided to postpone, which turns out it was probably a good thing. So now we're kind of trying to figure out if we want to do like just maybe a little road trip somewhere or something fun, because I'm still going to take the time off from work. I was like, I need that week to feel refreshed. So that's coming up, not next week, but the week after. So that will be fun. So thank you all for sharing in the chat kind of how you want to feel, what those goals are for the week. So kind of thinking about that as you go forward. And then let's move over. We'll talk about our to-dos, and we'll also talk about the one underneath that, our habits and activities, or habities, as I called them really quickly when I was talking too fast one time. Um, Obviously, this can be just a straight up to-do list, right? And one person changed it to weekly priorities, and they have some different things listed in there. Some people do a bingo. We do love a good bingo here in Sonder Club. It's fun to gamify some of those tasks that we have to do. One person, they set it up as a don't do this, but do this instead. I love that idea because a lot of times when we're subtracting, it kind of leaves that space, and then we're not quite sure what to do, and so we end up going back to that old habit. So having something, so again, like for me, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do Instagram and Facebook. I'm going to work on setting up this book club, right? And so I did that. So much more productive, makes me feel a lot better. So those kinds of things, setting it up. We've got a little self-care box. We've got some health. We've got some home, the course that they're working on. So little divided things up that way. The need, want, and hope. I need to do these things. I want to do these things. I hope that these things happen. This is kind of like a delightful. One person set it up one time as like a required and delightful. So these are the things that are required that I need to do. These are things that would be delightful. Splitting it up by things you have to do for work, things you have to do for home. Maybe you just want to do some gratitude in the to-do box, right? And a nice little quote. Maybe you want to think about how you want to be instead of what you want to do. So you want to be patient, you want to be kind, be vigilant, be honest. Maybe you want to make a not do list. So you don't want to multitask. You don't want to spend a lot of time on social media. You don't want to have lack of sleep, those kinds of things. So kind of thinking about that. And yes, keeping your habits from last week, bringing those over. You don't have to come up with brand new stuff every week. If things are working, you're still working on getting those ingrained, bring them over, right? There's no rule that it has to be brand new stuff every week. Maybe you want to make a ta-da list. So like when things get done, you write them down like, ta-da, I did these things. Then our habits and activities, again, maybe things that you want to do to help you stick to those habits and achieve your goals. Maybe you want to define your why. So you could always use that to-do box to define your why. Focus on progress, not perfection. Use the 2-minute rule. So anytime there's something that you need to do and it will take 2 minutes or less, just do it. Don't write it down and do it later. Just do it. Track and celebrate your effort. Prepare the day before. That is a huge one for me, making sure that I'm preparing the day before. Here's some examples of what some folks have done. Maybe doing a little habit stacking, like the person in the top left, where they want to go for a walk, but they also want to get some reading in. So they're combining those two, the night walk with an audiobook, putting those together. Maybe, again, doing some workout. Maybe it's some different workouts that you want to do, what that looks like. Maybe it's you want to read, so some reading things. The eat the frog comes from the eat the frog. So do the thing you're avoiding first in the day, and then like if you do the worst thing, you've eaten the frog, right? If you eat a frog at the beginning of the day, nothing else will be as bad. Some people have, social media break, taking a walk, doing something creative. And this is a little bit different from that monthly habit tracker. The monthly habit tracker usually is things we want to do every single day. These are things maybe that are specific to the week, things we only need to do a couple times a day, a couple times that week. So I will often put pack my lunch for work. I'm in the office usually only 3 days a week. So I pack my lunch for work 3 days a week, or even 2 days a week, that kind of thing. Oops, I went too far. So There's the to-dos and the habits and activities. I see some folks putting things like they want to feel rested. So their weekly major three is to go to bed on time, wake up on time, and leave on time. So, yes, time management will be the key. So, what kind of to-dos or habits and activities can you put in place, right? We got to get these systems in place to help us make sure that we feel rested because we want to go to bed on time. We want to wake up on time. So, going to bed on time, is that setting an alarm? Is that having your phone shut off at a particular time or going to the grayscale mode that makes you not as interested in looking at it? Is it making sure you set your alarm away from the bed so you have to actually get up and you don't hit that snooze button, right? So really kind of thinking about what are all the little things you need to do um, to really put those systems in place so that you can be successful. So yes, and Nicole's saying, who is not good at putting systems in place? It's teens because they don't understand systems. So we have to help them sometimes understand the systems. But yeah, it is totally tricky. So I'll be quiet. I will cycle through these slides. Let us know what you're going to put in your to-dos. Let us know what your habits and activities are, and then we will check back in and keep moving on. All right. So thank you for sharing the different things that you are putting in that to-dos and those habits and activities. So important to plan things out. And I saw some folks saying they're not good at checking their journal, like they spend a lot of time setting it up for the week, and then they forget to kind of go back. So maybe one of the things that you can do, one of the things that I did when I was first starting Silk and Sonder was I had an alarm on my phone that would go off at like 8 o'clock at night and say, remember to check your Silk and Sonder journal. So I would kind of, it got me in that habit of every night around 8 o'clock when I'm usually doing my setup for the next morning. Because I will usually get my vitamins all set up and ready to go. I get the coffee maker ready to go. I make sure my lunch is packed. I make sure my morning shake and breakfast stuff is ready to go, like right there on the counter. And then I look at my Silk and Sonder, kind of check things off. And when you get in that habit, and it's hard to do, but you get in that habit, you write it down, you do it and do it and do it. It makes things so much easier. And I will say, if you can set up the next day, the night before, you are already set up for a win because things are already in place when you get up. And if you're like me, you're half asleep and kind of like, what am I doing? So thanks for sharing there in the chat what you're going to do in those to-dos and those habits and activities. I should have also mentioned you do not have to fill in every single line with a habit and activity. Maybe there's one thing that you really want to focus on that particular week. So it's okay, right? You do not have to fill in that space. And for some people, the habits and activities section is too much or the to-dos is too much. So they just fill it up with stickers. You can totally do that, right? Again, it's all about what works for you. Kind of fun to just experiment with some different things each week. Because guess what? You'll get a new week in 7 days. You could maybe start all over again with something else. So we're going to flip over to that B side over on page 41. We like to call it the B side because sometimes you listen to it, sometimes you don't. It's kind of a grab bag of different kinds of things that we can use. And so I'm going to go over all of these sections because I think people repurpose a lot of these, kind of figuring out what works. And a lot of the things that we talk about that you can do in each of these sections, you could kind of do in any of them. So just a lot of different ideas for different things. So of course, the meal plan, you can plan your meals. You can write down your meals after you eat. But some people are like, I don't need that. I keep track of that, somewhere else, like on my phone, or I have something else that I'm using to track or plan that out. So use it to track symptoms, maybe using it as a health tracker, folks kind of tracking if they have some gastrointestinal issues or some head, migraines, those allergies, those kinds of things, kind of trying to keep track of that. Schoolwork or homework, scripture, a debrief, journal prompts, socials, when you're going to be going to some socials, clothing plan. I love to use it as a packing list. If we're going on a trip somewhere, I like to plan out what I want to wear each day. Keeps me from overpacking. Maybe we want a meal plan for my soul. That's that one over on the right hand side where they ask themselves a different question every day. Like, what are 3 things I'm grateful for right now? What's a small goal I achieved today? A place for National Day of, so I have the list of what it's the national day of for next week, so I can show you that. Garden tracker, if folks are starting to get the gardening thing going, can kind of keep track of that. Wins and achievements, word of the day, quotes, affirmations, workout plans, weekly reflection, right? Lots of different ways that you can use this section. It's a nice big chunky space to be able to kind of fill in with different things. Some people use it to do that daily affirmation, kind of writing. If you write tiny, you can make use of that space, right? Yes, the possibilities are definitely endless. Then we have our mind body health plans. So the idea is things that are good for your mind and or your body in this area. So maybe you want to make a fun, they have a little keep it fun, and then they have a little list of different fun things they can do. What I am loving today, and they just are listing things out. Girls just want to have fun, another fun little bingo. Some bills that they need to pay, kind of keeping track of that. The one in the middle, she was going to Disneyland on Tuesday, but she has her own business. And so she has some specific things she wants to do for her business. She wants to make sure she goes for a walk, right? So kind of keeping track of, I love that this is my plan and this is my reality, right? So other ideas, another person, just some simple things they want to do each day: go to a movie, text a friend, wash their hair, thank a mentor, something with fitness, serve others, start fresh. So lots of good ideas there. Yep. And if you're doing some gardening, here's a list of, I went online if you Google National Day of, you can get like the little calendar that gives you, every day has some sort of fun little national day of. So for example, because we have the time change on Sunday, we have National Napping Day on Monday, right? So maybe we need a nap, or it's Meatball Day or Barbie Day. The 10th is Pack Your Lunch Day, Blueberry Popover Day, Mario Day. The 11th is Oatmeal Nut Waffle Day. Johnny Appleseed Day, Popcorn Lovers Day. We could get some popcorn on that day. Working Moms Day, Plant a Flower Day, Girl Scout Day. Yeah, definitely on board for napping. The 13th is Dermatologist Day, Jewel Day, which is like, I don't know what you do with like little jewels. Or I was like, not the singer Jewel, but I guess it could be the singer Jewel. You could always listen to some Jewel songs, read some poetry of hers. Coconut Tort Day. I was like, I don't know where I'd find that, but that sounds really good. 14th is Children's Craft Day, Pie Day, right, for 314. Only works here in the US where we do the month first and then the day. Doesn't work in the other countries where it's day first, then month, then year. Potato Chip Day. 15th is Everything You Think Is Wrong Day. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but there you go. The Pears Helen Day, which I've never had that, but I looked it up and it's like pears with chocolate. And I thought that sounds good. Or World Contact Day. So lots of fun little ideas there for things you can do. And also I go back through so you can take a little screenshot. Maybe you want to keep track of your Wordle. Maybe you want to think about how you nourish your mind, your body, and your soul. And then our shopping list, again, good place for a bingo. Good place to have if you have a nighttime routine that you're trying to work on. Maybe you want to list that out. I like the person they did the cute little love yourself too and some different self-care shopping lists. Take what you need. Kind of a fun day, fun little thing to set that up. A mind, body, and heart bingo. Find bits of nature, unplug for an evening. To-do list, chores list, a social check-in, how you fill your cup, intentions, bingo. Again, possibilities are endless. All those different fun kinds of things. Oh my gosh, Nicole, you did 1,000 of the connections. I gave up on doing that because I was getting a little obsessive about it if I missed a day. So I haven't done that for a while. Maybe I'll start doing that again since I'm not on the social media. And then that I am loving is just kind of what are you enjoying? What is making you happy? What is filling your cup? And I've used this before, but I just love this little bumblebee. He's reading a book. He's got some juice. He's got some strawberries. He's just chilling. Life really does get better when you get back into your nerdy interests. So I love that idea. And I love lots of folks talking about planting some different things, the Meyer lemon bush and blood orange, those kinds of things. So I'll be quiet. We have just a little bit of time. I'll let you work on this section. Feel free to let us know kind of what you are putting in here, and we'll check back in and we'll wrap things up. So, believe it or not, I do not know how this hour goes by so fast, but it does. And we are at the end, and I know a lot of folks are having to jump off. They want to go, got to get some things done, feeling productive. So please, if you feel so inclined, share with us pictures of your weekly planner. You see, we got all these from you all that from posting in Sonder Club. So we love to see them. You never know who you're going to inspire with any of that. Also, no, we do still have the 24/7 life coach is still a thing. I don't know if they have any discounts on it yet or not. But just know that that still is there. We also still have, we've also got that event that's coming up on the 11th. Bailey is dropping tons of links in the chat. I will drop again the link for the book club that I just started. We haven't picked our book yet. We're still doing a poll. That will end, I think, tomorrow. Right now, I will tell you the one about the octopus, that book is winning so far. What is the name of that one? The Smart Creatures? No, wait. Um, Remarkably Bright Creatures. That's the one that's in the lead right now. But and we will obviously pick other books, right? So feel free to join that. You do have to get the Fable app. Also, if you are in the poll is in, if you go into the app, there's in the chat rooms, there's a our next read poll. You click on that, and then you click on, there's like a view. It says, what are we reading next month? You can click on view, and then you have to click on it again. It's kind of obnoxious. And then the little thing will pop up and you can vote. Just pick whichever book. We just have some, just the books that people suggested. When I put it in there, I'm like, we got to get something started. We've got our YouTube link there. You can watch any of these recordings again. I will post the link and info again for the book club and Sonder Club if anyone wants to do. Just know it is unofficial. It's just me to moderating it, so headquarters isn't going to know anything about it if you ask them a question. So let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully we will see you all again soon at another social. I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day. Take care, everyone.